Welcome to the Army Empire Podcast, your go-to podcast for insightful tips on investment strategies, entrepreneurship, and all things money matters. Join Bernard Alerte, your guide on this journey to financial freedom. Each episode will dive into expert advice, practical strategies, and inspiring stories to help you take control of your financial future. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur or a seasoned investor, we've got something for everyone. So get ready to unlock your financial potential and make your money work for you. And now, let's welcome your host, Bernard Alerte.
And we're back. Hello, everyone.
Awesome.
Hi, how are you
doing?
Good, good. It's nice to see you again, Bernard. I see we have a guest. Please introduce our guest tonight.
Yes, we're so excited. We have a guest, attorney Markeisha Smith. One of the things we talked about is we're very excited to have Markeisha on. One of the episode, I think episode 3, we talked about the 5 rules of wealth. And one of the first things we talk about is protecting your assets. Things to protect your assets or protect your income. We hear a lot about life insurance because September is Life Insurance Awareness Month. So we talked a lot about these different concepts. But one thing we wanted to do, which is I kind of miss a neglected part of protecting your assets, is the topics of wills, trusts, probates. People are not even aware of it. That's not something that's really talked about. And it's crazy. The craziest thing, one of our friends, Joe, was talking to Markeisha about that. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a exciting topic, insightful topic to kind of bring to our viewers there about different things out there that people don't even know when it comes to will probate, and also trust. So Markeisha, listen, we know Markeisha for the past, 8-9 months now. We're part of a networking group together. And one thing that impressed me so much about Markeisha is her knowledge, her in-depth knowledge, and her passion and in-depth knowledge of everything she talked about. And we say, we have to have her on. She's actually the first guest we have on the Army Empire Podcast. First of many guests, and there's no better person that we can have her on than Markeisha. So Markeisha, take a couple minutes to let everyone know who you are, where you are, and so they know a little bit more about you.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. That was such a fabulous introduction. I didn't know you were talking about me. No, but seriously, my name is Markeisha Smith, and I am a local attorney. I've been practicing now for almost a decade. My office is in Haines City. However, we cover all of the state of Florida. So we don't have just a county or anything like that we operate in. And that's because my practice area covers probate, car accidents, and real estate title closings. So because of that, I am able to go and take cases all over the state of Florida. Now, sometimes people will call me and they'll ask me questions about things that are not Florida specific. And I'll tell them that I can't really give them any advice on that at all. I can try to refer them to another attorney of that sort, but attorneys should only be giving you advice in states that they are actually licensed to practice law in. So that's why. Talking about probate specifically, though, I actually like probate. It's one of those things that I feel is very taboo. And I talk with my hands, so I'm a little bit animated. I think it's taboo because people don't really like to think about the ever after, other than to say, I'm going to transition one day and I don't, I'm going to hope for the best or whatnot. And so we really don't put enough thought into preparing for that transition, other than to say, I want to make it to wherever we think we're, waits for us after we leave. But it is so important to put thought into it and to do that planning. And so when we're talking about probate, that's just one snippet. All right. So you really got to come from an estate planning realm. So I enjoy it because I used to be an educator. I was in education for 10 years. And so I'm a person where if you come to my law firm, my job is to not just do a good job for you, it's to educate you and to kind of give you your options. So anybody that comes into my office and they ask for anything in the realm of estate planning, my first question is usually to them, what would you like to achieve? What do you want to see happen? And the reason why is because there are a lot of misnomers and there are a lot of misconceptions out there And I kind of consider it as demystifying, what happens or whatnot, because people just think, oh, it's going to happen this way, it's going to happen that way, and it doesn't. So
Yeah.
I love probate because I get a chance to educate, and I get a chance to give people some control right now of what's going to happen to their assets after them. So probate really, really gets my juices going.
Well, we're about to learn.
Assets, so
Absolutely.
I'm excited.
All right. I love this. So we are totally about to get into that education and demystify, like the attorney just said, which I love so much, because we're going to dive deep. We have a few questions for you so that you can help us to understand things like what is the difference between this and that. So we're just going to shoot some questions, but I want to say hello to the folks that are already watching and already commenting. We got a comment here. Yeah, that's part of the package called life.
Yes.
We need to make sure that that's another part that we take care of. And some folks are excited about this podcast today, this episode. Hello, Markeisha. Eileen is sending a shout out.
Oh, I can see them at the bottom. Hi, Eileen.
Yes. So keep watching, guys, and keep commenting and ask questions. And I will pull up the questions. And let's take advantage that we have an attorney with us right now as we start this amazing conversation about protecting your assets, wills, trust, and probate.
Yes.
So what's your first question, Bernard?
One of the first questions we talked about is, I think a lot of people sometimes they have a concept, you know what, I don't have any assets, I don't have anything. Why should I even talk about that? So let me ask you, at what point in life should someone consider like estate planning?
I would say probably as soon as you become of the majority. And so that's a legal term that just says you turn 18. So when you become an adult, I think that is the perfect time to start thinking about it. A lot of times our children don't leave us right away, but if they do, they go off to college. So that's kind of like a semi leaving us or whatnot. But anything can happen to those children when they go to college. They can get cars in their names. It's just a good time to really put it on the forefront of your mind of, let me see what I can do for myself once you reach the age of 18. However, I would encourage individuals that have children or are already of the age of the majority to talk to the youth and the young people in their life about this right now, right? They really shouldn't be seeking this information out for the first time at 18, because this would be a conversation that you're having in your house, right? When you're at the dinner table or different things like that, where you should be telling them, this is what's going to happen to my stuff afterwards, and this is what I want you to do, if that's what you choose to when you become an adult, and this is why. Sharing it with them, because the number one thing that I see is that individuals really don't get that transfer of knowledge, right? We always talk about transferring wealth, but they don't get the transfer of knowledge of the why. Why are we doing this? What is the purpose of it? And so you can help really a lot if you start talking to your children about it right now.
I love that answer. That's great. Wow. And then for me, this is for me, and I'm sure other people are probably asking the exact same question. What in the world is the difference between a will and a trust?
Yes.
Oh man, that's a really good question. So to give it to you like in a pretty straightforward way, if you have a trust, there is not going to be any court oversight. Meaning, if you have a trust, you don't have to go before a judge. And I try to break it down in really, really simple terms, right? You don't have to go before a judge and say, hey, judge, tell us what's supposed to happen here, or go to a lawyer to say, tell us what's supposed to happen. The trust is very straightforward on this asset goes to this person. This asset is going to pay for X, Y, and Z. So it's very straightforward with the trust. A will is straightforward, but it has court oversight. Wow. So that means that you have to usually go record that will at the clerk of court. Some people choose to do it right away. Others choose to keep it in a safety deposit box or in a drawer at home or wherever, right? Where they keep their important documents, and they tell a person, if I pass, all my things are over there. But at some point in time after your death, whether you do it beforehand or after, that will is going to have to be recorded, right, in the clerk of court's office, right? And then that is what the judge or whatever attorney you hire will look at to say, hey, these are the directions for what they're supposed to do. So the court is going to be looking to make sure that that estate is being administered according to what you put in the will. With the trust, you're not taking it before an attorney after you pass. Your family isn't, they're not taking it before a judge, right? Those things are just set in place and they're going to kind of happen automatically.
Wow.
Mm.
Wow.
So listen, if you don't have a paper and pen out while you're watching this episode, you're going to miss out. I mean, we're really taking some notes here. We have a question. Is a medical directive necessary?
I think so. To be honest with you, I feel if you're a person who wants certain things to happen and you want to have some semblance of say or control, then yes, it's all important. You know, if you have 4 children and you have one house, and let me just be frank, if you know that maybe one of your children may be prone to selling off things quicker than another, you may want to say, I want this asset to stay in my family for as long as possible. I've worked extremely hard for it. I want my grandchildren to have it. So you may want to consider making sure you set something up in place as to where that 4th child, you know, can't off the property or whatever.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So I think it's definitely necessary if you don't want someone making decisions for you.
Mhm.
So it's necessary.
Absolutely.
Awesome. That's great information. Thank you. That is such great information. Now, what you put in a will and what you put in a trust, is there anything that should not be in there, or can you add the same thing in both?
So let me break down and tell you what your assets are. So your assets are going to be things such as your house, that's an asset, your vehicle, that's an asset, your bank account, that's an asset, your jewels if you have them, your clothing, that's an asset. Most people though usually don't really care about clothing, right? Because most of us aren't, you know, Kim K style, Kim Kardashian, and we have thousands of dollars worth of shoes, right? That we can go off for a lot of money. But usually if we just have belongings or whatnot and nobody's trying to fight over the luggage unless it's Louis Vuitton luggage, then they're fighting over it, right? But if it's not that, you know, you're just your personal effects or whatnot, so pretty much anything can be an asset. And so pretty much, yeah, anything can go into either or. In a trust though, you usually want to have an asset that's going to be income producing, right? So I'm usually going to put my home in my trust, because, or you know, some other asset that produces income, right? Because something has to be able to fund the trust and pay for it and different things of that nature. A will is usually going to just list everything that you have. The items that don't go into necessarily a trust or a will, but people will sometimes include them, maybe just for peace of mind, right? Are benefits that are payable, things that are payable upon death. So what that means is if you have a life insurance policy and it's payable on death, you created that life insurance policy with your agent while you were living. And so that's pretty much a contract with them. They're going to have to honor that and pay that to whoever you left as a beneficiary, if you left a beneficiary on your death. So that's not a probatable asset. And this is really important because a lot of people will come and they'll say, hey, you know, there's a house there and it's my sister and I, but there was a life insurance policy and she didn't give me any of it. And I'll ask, was your sister the beneficiary? And when they say, yeah, I'll tell them, well, that meant it was payable on death, right? She just had to produce the death certificate, show that she was in fact the sister, and they paid it out to her. And that causes problems because people don't understand that. They feel like someone's taking something from them. No, my sister took that from me. She should have given me half, right? And so that's where those conversations come in that are important to say, hey, I am mom, I am dad. I'm going to give you the house. I'm going to give your sister the life insurance policy because I want her to do X, Y, and Z. Not making it a secret, then your children or whoever's left over isn't fighting over what they believe you wanted, right? And over what they believe should have happened. Or it creates other interesting dynamics where people will come in and even start to think that, you know, mom wasn't doing so well in her later years. And I believe that my sister was over there telling her what to say, you know, and making her change it. And there was something else. So it just, what you don't want to do is wreak and cause more havoc. And I'm going to just say it for what it is. You don't want to wreak more havoc and cause more havoc on your family members because you didn't put those things in place and you didn't discuss it with them. This should not be a secret. This should not be taboo. So benefits that are payable on death, they're not going into probate. They're not probatable. They're going to give it to them. Your bank account, if you have a beneficiary on it, it's not going into probate. It is going to whoever the beneficiary is. Now, I have had individuals say this, well, I'm going to create a will, and then the beneficiary on the bank account is my brother, but now that my mom and dad are getting older, they're going to create a will and they're going to make me get the benefit of that bank account. Doesn't happen, folks. Okay. The will does not override a beneficiary. It just does not. And people think that. People think, well, my name is on that asset in the will. And I'll tell them, yeah, but there's a beneficiary. So they already cleared the account and they can do that. And they don't have to give you anything. It's lawful. And so it just creates a lot of challenges, and it makes the probate process a little bit more difficult, because then the family members don't really talk or want to deal with each other. And these are just a lot of the scenarios that we see. Death is always hard, and everybody takes it differently, right? And so sometimes you have people who are focused on, let me get the death certificates, let me figure this out, let me see what the assets are, and let me go forward. And that's how they process. Let's keep it going to the next, season or whatnot, or let's just kind of wrap it up. Others process where I'm grieving, and I am not even thinking about anything for 2 months. I can barely even get through the funeral arrangements, right? And so what it becomes 4, 5, 6 months down the road is, my goodness, mom wasn't even in out of this world a good 2 weeks, and here you were at the bank trying to figure out what she has going on. So that is a part of life, like one of the commenters said. So the more we start talking about it, and we get our children and our family members comfortable with, this is going to happen, and these are my wishes, it makes it easier. What you don't want is people to not talk for 10, 15, 20 years. And trust me, I've seen it happen. People have not talked for ages because they believe that they were cut out of something. So
you are talking, you are sharing truth, you're sharing raw, real information, plus you're educating us. And I love this so very much. Meanwhile, we have Derwin. He's keeping it very light and saying he's going to need to protect his sneakers.
Tell him I got about 2 pair I need to protect.
But Alistair says, these are facts. You're sharing facts. You're sharing such truths here with us that we need to make sure we comprehend. And we not only receive this information, retain it, but apply it and run with the information that we're receiving tonight. This is all really good stuff. And you're clarifying a lot of things for us. Is there another question that we have, Bernard, for her?
Yeah. You talked about a will. See, a lot of can you share with the audience, is a will good enough to avoid probate?
No, it's not. So if I were to summarize it, the best way I can put it is, think about if you're going to bake a cake, and then you get a box that has instructions on the back. So a will is simply your instructions that you give to the court. That's it, right? So if I have a house, a car, a bank account, and say for some reason I do not, 401k policy, for some reason I don't have beneficiaries listed on them, I thought to myself, you know what? My mom has enough money already. She's not getting this money, right? I don't have kids at the time I get it started, and I'm not married. But then later in life, I get married, and this happens very commonly, folks. I have kids, and I never stop to think. Why? Because we don't want to process it. I don't want to process the end. I don't want to think about it. We never stop to think that, darn it, I did not go back and add a beneficiary. Right? Sometimes it even happens with divorces. Let's just be real and talk about it. You're married. That's your beneficiary for everything. You divorce, you stay married 20 years, you divorce or whatnot. You get remarried 5 years later. Guess what happens? You pass away. Guess who's getting everything? First wife. I've had that happen a lot. And then new wife is upset. I've been here 10 years. They've been divorced for 12. What happened? Well, there's nothing you can do about it. So you got to think about it. I'm telling you, the last thing you think about is going to the bank account and updating your beneficiaries, right? It hit me home when, something happened. My husband, I don't know what happened, but I went down to the bank and they were like, oh, yeah, your mom's your beneficiary. And I thought, I got to go change that. And the reason why, and it's just having conversations, it really came about because my mom said, listen, my take on life is this. If I live long enough, honey, and you have something there and my name's on it, it's for me. It is not for your husband. It's not for your children. Okay. I assume you with good sense If you wanted them to have something, you would have left it to them, and you didn't. So I'm sorry, they didn't get it from me or whatever. And I thought, oh my goodness, I gotta go down there. So when I was, 21 and graduating from college, I put my mom on everything. I didn't have kids, I didn't have a husband, and I never thought, let me go back and change it. And then even so, I thought, well, she'll probably just give it to them because she just knows. She knows that I'm no longer here, and she knows I didn't have kids in, and she realized I didn't have a husband in, so she needs to go give this to them. That is not how it works, folks, right? And that doesn't happen very often. So you need to be accountable for yourself. So I guess the basic thing I'll say is this: one, hold yourself accountable. Number two, if you have a bank account, you need to be trotting down to the bank and making sure you have a beneficiary, because there is no reason for a bank account, money that's left there, to ever go into any probate at all or any other vehicle, because you can designate who you want it to go to right now, and all they have to do is go get it. They shouldn't have to fight with the courts or me to go get it. Most probate attorneys start for the summary administration, because there are two types, summary and a full, right? But let me just give you the breakdown. Most probate attorneys start around $4K. So if you have a bank account that has $10,000 in it, and I've had that before, that's the only asset that you have, and it does not have a beneficiary, and you have one child, and your husband predeceased you, so the only person living is your one child, they're now going to have to go hire a probate attorney like myself, and guess what? They'll pay us $4,000 to get to the 10. What sense does that make?
Wow.
If they had been left as a beneficiary or named as a beneficiary on that account, they would have just got it.
Yeah.
Say, my mom died, here you go. Hey, here's a death certificate. Give me the money. That's you. Yes, right? So number one, bank accounts should never, ever, ever, ever be in probate. Never, okay? That's not why I'm here. I'm not here to make money off of people because they got this there, right? But once it's there, if you pass intestate, that's with no will. So that's another thing, right? If you pass testate means you have a will. If you pass intestate, it means you don't have a will. People also come and they think, well, I want to skip probate, so I'm going to make a will to skip probate. You cannot create a will to skip probate, okay? A will, that is simply the instructions that you give to the court or to the probate attorney to say, hey, my mom had or dad had this, this, and this. My husband or wife had this, this, and this is who it goes to. Why do you need anybody to say that? You can read. If you can read, you can read. John gets the car, okay? Sarah gets the bank account, or whatnot. It's kind of that, it's really kind of that simple, right? With some of these things. This person gets the life insurance policy because it's already over there. So again, you don't really have to list life insurance policies, but you can if you feel comfortable or whatnot. You don't got to list 401ks. Anything that you can have a beneficiary to should never be going into probate.
Man,
at all.
So good. So good. So good. So Alistair says, looks like I got me a new lawyer. It's such
Come on.
Yep. It's such great information. And we are going to leave Markeisha's information here. Definitely. Yep. I need that information so I can go ahead and put that in the tickler down below. This is life-changing information is what we got going on here, guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have like 2 more questions, Markeisha, before we head out, because this is so good.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about like health proxies and power of attorney? Like, we hear those words a lot.
Yes, definitely. Yes. So a health proxy is used in Florida when someone is incapacitated and they haven't created a healthcare surrogate, right? So pretty much it's basically like a representative or an agent that's going to make decisions for you when you can't. You can't communicate. God forbid you trip and you fall and you can't speak for yourself, right? That healthcare proxy would allow whoever you designated to be able to do that for you. So that's really important because I would think there would be someone that you love and that loves you, and that you've also again had conversations with about what you want to do, right? So my mom, I'm gonna give you this example again. I may or may not be her healthcare proxy. Why? Her designee, because she's decided when I pass, I want to be, cremated or whatever, and I don't want to funeral. And I've decided, Oh, girl, I do not want that for you. Okay. I want to invite everybody. I got to have all your friends. I got to have this big thing. I got to have a glass box. I got to have doves being released. That's just it.
Mhm.
So, and I've communicated that with her. So I may not be the best person to make that decision for you because I'm going to come out of a place of, oh my God, I can't do that to you and take you out that way. So again, having those conversations and designating a person that's going to act out on your wishes is what you would want to have there, right? So that's your healthcare proxy. Your power of attorney, it ends when you pass away. So I think of people needing power of attorney when I'm going to go to the army. I'm being called in on active duty or something, and so I'm
Mhm.
going to give a power of attorney to my mother or my father or my brother or my sister to act on my behalf in my absence, right?
Mhm.
Power of attorney terminates upon death.
Okay.
Can't do anything with anymore. And that's a big misconception because people come into my office and they'll say, well, I need to make all the decisions for dad because I'm the power of attorney. And I have to tell them, well, that ended when dad passed. Okay.
Right.
And the other thing is this, people will say, why did dad sign this? I'm the power of attorney. Nobody called me. And I'll tell them, well, the power of attorney simply allows you to act for dad, but it does not take away dad's power to act on his behalf. And I say this with all good intentions because sometimes people will say, hey, my mom isn't in the best condition or shape, and she's highly influential by my sister. My sister's gonna go and rack up a mortgage on her house, right? So I'm gonna get power of attorney over mom so I can take care of her bills and all this and that. And then the next thing you know, mom has a mortgage on her house, and they're like, why or whatnot or whatever. I'm sorry, I said it in reverse. Like sister gets the power of attorney. Mom has a mortgage on her house. Yeah, I said that right. Well, that could be because sister may have said, Mom, I really, 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 really need this money. Can you just get a HELOC? Can you get a home equity line of credit on your house? Can you get a mortgage for me? And mom goes and says, you know what? Okay, baby, I'll do it. Mom does that, right? Well, the sister who has power of attorney sometimes gets upset to say, why was that allowed? Well, it doesn't take away mom's rights.
Mm.
So the people that I think about that really need a power of attorney are like, say for instance, in a real estate case, I had a
Mhm.
guy who was going to close on a house. He got called out during COVID or something. He said, I'm going to give my mom and dad a power of attorney and make it specific. The power of attorney to close on this one real estate transaction. You can do that. Okay, but a
Mhm.
lot of us will go and we'll just give us people a durable power of attorney, a general power of attorney, and it lists all these powers that are enumerated in there: open bank accounts, sell mortgages, sell, get debt, all this type of stuff, right? And you don't want to do that. So if you can, think before you give a person a power of attorney. What is it that you need them to do? And then think about limiting the power that you're going to give them. And remember,
Mm.
anybody that gets that power of attorney, if you decide to yourself, or hey, I no longer want you to have power of attorney anymore, well, you got to go and revoke that, and then you got to go tell the people that have it. Okay, because if I think that you have power of attorney over your mother and you've given me that, and mom has not come to tell me that it's revoked, well, then I'm taking your signature because I don't have anything else saying that it's not revoked. So you get what I'm saying? So you got to make sure that you go revoke it to the other people, or they're not going to be responsible. If you say, oh, I pulled this back 2 months ago, she shouldn't have gotten the loan. Well, honey, we didn't know that. Okay, we were relying on this POA that we got. So a power of attorney, to me, I can't see why you would give it to someone other than in those limited circumstances such as that. Like, I
Right.
just need somebody to be able to act for me.
Right.
That's
Wow.
it.
So good.
Wow.
Bernard,
Yes.
let's
I-
close this up with that last question.
You kind of covered it because you covered it
I think
because the
so
last
too.
was the consequences of not having everything set up, estate planning. And it's
Mhm.
crazy just to speak about what you talked about. I mean, we had a situation in the health proxy where there was a lady, she was married, and I think it was in Florida. It was in Florida. It's a big case in Florida where she was married, and they were a DNR. They were trying to figure out. The doctor says, she's kind of, there's no way to
Do
recover.
recessive.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
All
exactly.
that
And
stuff.
the husband wanted to, the DNR, but the parent says no way. So there was a fight because there was no health proxy. It went on for
Yeah.
months. Went to
Yeah.
Supreme, I think it was the Supreme Court and everything
Mhm.
because of something minor, not having a health proxy. So
And
I mean, it's wow.
this stuff happens all the time. I have an aunt that passed, and she was married, but her and her husband were estranged. And so obviously he pretty much got the say. And so the family was really scared because they said, well, if they're estranged, and something comes up, he's not going to care about saving her. He's going to just pull the plug. And so that
Yes.
was the biggest thing. And I thought to myself, nobody's prepared for this. Like, nobody talks about this. And she was a nurse. And so you would think that she would have had that in place. And we just don't think about it. So if the number one thing I could urge people to do is to have the conversations, think about it. I know they're tough, but as life changes, right? So you revisit it. It's just like your financial plan. Life changes, the cost of living goes up. You revisit that probably, I would say, every year, right? I'm no longer with my husband. That may not be the best person, to do this, or this situation has changed, or this person is in this predicament now, or whatnot. Just really, really take a good look at those things and make sure that they're updated and that they adequately reflect your wishes and what you think people will do once you're no longer here. Because none of us never really know what anybody's going to do, right? But you try to just judge them based on how they've been with you this entire time, how they treat others. You don't want to leave like everything to your oldest saying, hey, I'm going to leave it to you, and I want you to make sure your brothers are taken care of, because people take that different ways, right? They take it as, well, I mean, I'll give you $200, I know what to tell you, you're already working. So you just got to make sure that you really have those real conversations and those hard truth moments, and know your kids and know your people, right? And know what you're doing. And other than that, you'll be fine.
Wow.
Wow.
So great.
So incredible information, and it's crazy. I just want to thank you so much, Markeisha, for your time, because I know you're so busy. Spend time with the kind of with the audience, sharing with them the it's the uncomfortable. We have uncomfortable conversations when it comes to life insurance, and having that power. Everything you talked about is so important. Also,
Yeah.
Wow.
So let me leave you with this. I'm going to give you one more summarization, right? Because I think that's sometimes really important. Most individuals don't need a trust. Okay, a trust is really good to have, but most of Americans don't have the true assets that you need to really have and sustain a trust, with certain exceptions. Like, you can have a special needs trust. You have a child that has a disability, you need to set something up in place, a special needs trust, right? So if you have those particular situations, you may be better off getting a trust, right? Because they're going to be more costly. The other thing is, with a trust is going to transfer the assets right now. So you create the trust owns the assets right now where you're living. You no longer own them. You can make yourself the trustee or whatever. When you have a will, those assets will only pass upon your death, right? So that's a distinguishing factor between a trust and a will, right? Some trusts are revocable, some trusts are irrevocable, right? A revocable trust just means that you can revoke it. An irrevocable trust means you cannot revoke it. So once you do it, it is final, right? So usually, if you're going to be paying a trustee, right? If you just have a house, unless you have some other tax liabilities that you're trying to get away from or something like that, just being honest with you, sometimes there's absolutely no real benefit in having a trust hold that, unless you're doing it for tax purposes or something else. And if you're doing that, you're already kind of savvy anyway, right? But if you're doing it just because you don't want them to sell it, well, remember, I tell people this, once you pass and they get it, the trust can still sell the property. So I'm just being honest with you. So my conversations are, what do you want to happen? Oh, I want my property to be here for 2 generations. Well, that usually doesn't happen, right? The only way that happens is if you talk to them, right? There's no mechanism out there that says, I bought this house, I paid for this house, I want my children to have it and their children to have it and their children to have it. Well, you better start having deep conversations. That I paid for this and I need you to keep it. And I paid for this and I need you to keep it. Because a lot of times you can do those deed transfers, right? Like a life estate deed will allow you to transfer a property from yourself back to yourself for your whole life. And you'll leave it to whoever you want and they get it after you die, but only after you die if you still have it. So that means that, your homestead exemption doesn't change if you have homestead. So your taxes don't go up or any of that. You can mortgage it, sell it, do whatever you want. You can change it again. But if you still got it, when you pass away, it goes to them free and clear without a probate, without the need for a trust or any of that stuff, right? So
Yeah.
it's just having a conversation to see what you really want to happen. What do I really want to happen with my stuff? And then go from there. Not just, oh, everybody says get a trust, or everybody says get, a will or whatever, right? Just decide, what do I want this asset to do when I pass away? Who do I want to have it? Where do I want it to go? And then go from there. And then I can tell you usually what you need. So that's going to be an individual specific conversation, right? Because usually you don't need what you think you need. You just
Right.
Yes.
That's another episode.
Yes.
don't. It is.
Absolutely.
Listen,
All right.
this is free advice. Like, we've gotten
Wow.
free advice from the attorney. I'm telling you, yes, she's dropping some bars. She sure is. She sure is. And I'm with Murray Carrillo. I'm with you. I'm going to the bank too, and I'm going to make sure the beneficiaries are listed. I think that's one of the things that we learned.
Yeah.
We learned.
And just
today.
remember that if your bank allows you to put multiple beneficiaries on there, ask them how they split it. So I bank with Mid Florida. I have 3 beneficiaries. They're my sons. Mid Florida said whoever gets here first is taking the whole account.
This is perfect. Listen,
Wells
her
Fargo,
email.
I think, is different. They don't do that. So it's
Oh,
just,
really?
you need to ask the bank. Yes.
So we got to ask the bank also how they
Mhm.
split it up.
Because I think with Wells Fargo, if I split it between 4 people, they'll give them their 25% each. But with Mid Florida, they said we're not getting into that. If you leave 4 people on this account, any one of those 4 people can come and get 100%. We're not giving them out 25% apiece.
Wow.
Okay. So that's something worth knowing. So that's enough to say, hey, if you got $25,000, we'll open up 5 accounts, I guess, 5 savings accounts, and leave each one $5,000 in a different account, and just one person as the beneficiary. It's worth doing it.
Yes.
So,
This is so good. Hi, Peter. We see you're watching. We love
Yes.
you, man. This is awesome. I love this so much. Thank you for being such an amazing guest
Yes.
on the podcast today, Markeisha. This was
thank you for
amazing.
having me.
And folks, you can find her on Facebook. You can find her on Instagram. Her email, like we just mentioned, is below.
It's at the
Even-
bottom.
Even if you email her just to say,
Yeah.
thank you so much for being a guest. Just and
Well,
share
that's
your
nice.
highlights. And
Yeah.
share your highlights, share your gold nuggets that you received today. I know I did. Look, I took my notes, and I know
absolutely.
my husband and I are going to have some conversations after. But this is really good. Look, we need an encore session, Bernard.
Yes. We're gonna have Markeisha. If she wants to come back on, we're gonna have her
Yeah.
back on soon in the near future.
Yes,
Just
I'll
cover more
definitely come back.
information. That'll be great. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Wow.
I'll be back.
so
Thank
good.
you so much. Oh my gosh. this
Thank
is-
you.
So good. A little birdie told me that you did a really awesome impression of me this morning.
I did really good. I think I did both of you this morning.
I know exactly. You told
Oh
me.
yeah, you were standing in for president today. That's awesome.
Yes.
We love you so much, Markeisha. You're just
Thank
a wealth of
you.
knowledge.
Absolutely. Excited to have you. Thank you so much, Markeisha. Liz, thank you so much for really spending the time and really giving those nuggets to everyone. We want to make sure we have a platform to give people knowledge that they need to have for them to kind of improve their financial future and different topics. So we're excited and blessed to have you guys. So till next episode.
Until next time. Have a
That's
good
right.
one, guys.
All right, bye.
Take care.
Thanks for tuning in to the Army Empire podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it with your friends. Join us next week for another exciting edition, and until then, keep building your empire.